A very good evening to one and all. So today we are heading towards lecture 5 on animal kingdom. In last lecture we learned about phyla Platyhelminthes and Eschhelminthes, which were flatworms and roundworms. In today's lecture we will learn about another phyla that belongs to animal kingdom, which is the phylum Annelids. So basically from this figure we can learn about annelids is that they belong to the kingdom Animalia. So they are multicellular, they are heterotrophic, that is their mode of nutrition is heterotrophic. They are multicellular, they are eukaryotes. So all these are the basic characters of organisms that belong to the phylum Annelids. Now the animals that belongs to phylum Annelids have organ system level of organization. That is, they have circulatory system. So they have circulatory system. They have excretory system. They have nervous system. So all these, they have organ system level of organization. These systems are developed in the organisms of that belongs to phylum Annelids. They have bilateral symmetry. That is, their body can be divided into two equal halves by only one axis of symmetry, and they are true coelom. They have true coelom. That is, they are coelomates. So they are triploblastic. So we know what are triploblastic. That is, those which have ectoderm, mesoderm, as well as endoderm as their germinal layers. So they have an ectoderm, they have a mesoderm, and they have an endoderm. This is endo, let's say, this is meso, and this is ecto. And they have a true coelom, that is, they have a true body cavity which is made up of mesoderm. So they have a true body cavity which we called as coelom, right? So the true body cavity is called as coelom, and it is present in the organisms of the phylum Annelids. So they are true coelom, that is, they are coelomates. So basically what we know about the organisms that belongs to phylum Annelid are, they are animal, that is, they are multicellular, they have organ system level of organization, they are bilaterally symmetrical, they have true coelom, their bodies with true coelom, they are coelomates, and such organisms, some of these organisms with these characteristics belong to the phylum Annelids. Now, these are the basic characteristics. What are the specific characters about the organisms that belong to phylum Annelids are, we will learn now. So, why the name Annelids? Why they are called as Annelids? So, the term Annelid, that is the phylum Annelida, has been derived from the Latin word annulus. So, this annulus means little ring. And we will see that in phylum Annelids, we will have worms that will have the body structure that has a ring-like body structure. Their body is divided into different segments. So they are segmented worms. So these are the different segments. This pattern of segmentation in the worms here is also known as metamerism. So they basically have metameric segmentation. This segmentation is very important property of annelids. Metameric segmentation is present in the annelids. So this is important. This is a kind of special feature. Metameric segmentation is present in annelids. So they are called as annelids because they have a little, like this body, as I mentioned, is segmented and is made up of little ring which is known as annulus, and therefore the phylum Annelids. They vary in size from microscopic to tropical earthworms. Earthworms we all have seen. So that also belong to the phylum Annelid, and it can vary over size from it may be microscopic. So some organisms of phylum Annelids are microscopic in nature, while some of them may be meters long. So they may be over 4 meters long. As I mentioned, the special property of annelids is that they have segmentation. So annelids have segmentation. Segmentation, what is segmentation? It is the repetition of body parts along the length of the body. So such segmentation is also known as metameric segmentation, as I mentioned, and it is present in the organisms of phylum Annelids. So this is important that they have segmentation. And what is actually segmentation? It is the repetition of the body parts. Now they have a well-developed coelom. As I mentioned, they are coelomates. They have a true coelom, which is filled with the fluid, and therefore it acts as a supportive hydrostatic skeleton. This we will see in details, that how this is helping in the movement, and basically how this hydrostatic skeleton is helping in the movement of the organism in the annelid category. So a hydrostatic skeleton, along with the partitioning of the coelom, permit independent movement of each body segment. So as I mentioned, this hydrostatic skeleton is helping in the movement of the body segments of the organisms of phylum Annelids. So how this is helping, which we will see later. So next, they have a closed circulatory system. So in closed circulatory system, we know that the blood is pumped with the help of the heart, and it is carried through the blood vessels into the different organs. Suppose this is another organ of the body. It is carried with the help of the blood vessels. Unlike the open circulatory system, where the blood is being released into the body cavity and it bathes the organs. So this is the open circulatory system. This is the closed circulatory system, where the blood reaches to the other organs through the blood vessels. So they have a closed circulatory system where the blood reaches the organ through the blood vessels. And their blood is red in color due to the presence of pigments like hemoglobin. But unlike humans, where hemoglobin is present along with the RBC, their hemoglobin is dissolved in the plasma. Now, we know one of the special features of the invertebrates, that they have a ventral solid nerve cord. So they have a ventral nerve cord. While if we look at vertebrates, like for example humans, they have a dorsal nerve cord. This we will learn later when we will learn about vertebrates. But in invertebrates, you will find the ventral nerve cord. So this is a differentiation between the invertebrates and vertebrates, right? So in non-chordates or in chordates, like in invertebrates and vertebrates, the difference is of the positioning of the nerve cord also. Now, for their excretory system, they have paired nephridia. So paired nephridia is present as a part of their excretory organ. One of the special other feature is the presence of seta. So these setae are actually the bristles that protrude out from the body wall. So suppose this is the body wall. These are the setae that protrude out from the body wall, and therefore they help in the anchoring of the worm. That is, they help in the worm to get attached, and also they help in the movement. So on the basis of the number of setae, all organisms of phylum Annelids can be divided into different categories. For example, oligochaetes and polychaetes. So oligochaetes, as the name suggests, oligo means few, poly means many. So those annelids that have few setae belong to the category oligochaetes, while those that have many setae present over the body, they belong to the category polychaetes. So they belong to the class polychaetes. Art form which we are very familiar of, which we almost all of us must have seen, that belong to the class oligochaetes, that have few bristles or few setae, and it uses the body wall for gas exchange. So in oligochaetes, the exchange of the gases takes place through the surface of the body wall. While polychaetes, which have many bristles, are mainly marine worms. So they are mostly terrestrial, right? They are present on the land. So they are mostly terrestrial, while these are marine worms that are present in the water. So they have parapodia. This is a special feature of polychaetes, that they have parapodia. They may be predators with a definite head region, or they may be filter feeders with ciliated tentacles to filter food from the water. Next category is leeches. So basically what we can say is that, so this complete annelids can be divided into three types: oligochaetes, polychaetes, and the leeches. That is the heterodinated. So this is the main classes of the phylum annelids. Oligochaetes with few septa, not septa. So there is a difference between the term setae and septa. Please do not get confused with these terms. They might seem similar, but they are different. So setae are the bristles that are present on the surface. Septae are the segments. So few setae are present, then oligochaetes. If many bristles are present, then polychaete. And the third category is leeches. So in general, if we talk about, in most of the, mostly we will talk about oligochaetes like earthworms. Then we will have a brief discussion on polychaetes and leeches also. So in general, as whatever we have discussed, we can see in this figure that they have a complete digestive tract. That is, they have mouth as well as anus fully developed, and they have pharynx, esophagus, crop, gizzard as a complete digestive system. So they have a complete alimentary canal, or they have a complete digestive tract. Also, as I mentioned, they have circulatory system of open type. So they have closed type. So they have closed circulatory system in which heart is made up of 5 pairs of blood vessels. So you can see here, this is the heart. So it is made up of 5 pairs of blood vessels, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 pairs of blood vessels together form the heart. Then it has seminal vesicle as a part of male reproductive organ. These blood vessels are a part of circulatory system. They have dorsal blood vessels, we can see here, and then they have ventral blood vessels. So one that is lying on the dorsal side of the body is the dorsal blood vessel. One lying on the ventral side of the body is the ventral blood vessel. Then they have lateral blood vessels also that supplies the blood to the other organs. Nephridia is the excretory organ, and as a part of like you can see that they have brain developed. So cephalization is present in them, which was absent in the earlier organisms that we discussed. So cephalization, that is the presence of the brain in the head, is appeared first in annelids. So this is important, that they have brain and they have ventral nerve cord as a part of their nervous system. So we will discuss about all these systems in detail one by one. So from this we can just have an idea about the organ system level of organization, where now different organs are forming an organ system and together they are helping in the proper functioning of the body. So how does the movement in annelids takes place? So we learn that the septa helps in they move with the help of the hydrostatic skeleton. So how is it helping in the movement? So in earthworms and many other annelids, there are 2 types of muscles which are present. So one is circular muscle and another one is the longitudinal muscle. So you can see in the figure, like suppose if I draw it here. So these are the circular muscles that are being present. So they are present like this, if you imagine it in 3D, right? And these are the longitudinal muscles which are present along this axis. So they have longitudinal muscles and they have circular muscles, right? These different these structures you can see, these are setae. These structures which I am highlighting now, as you can see, these are setae. And these divisions are called as septa. So this is one septa, this is another septa, this is next septa, like that. So basically these two muscles, like circular muscles and longitudinal muscles, they act together to change the shape of individual fluid-filled segments which are divided by the septa. So septa are the divisions, right? These septa, which is the division. So these this segment is filled with the fluid, as you can see in this also. So they are fluid-filled spaces. So individual fluid-filled segments help in the movement by changing the shape of the individual fluid-filled segments with the help of the circular and longitudinal muscles that act together to change the shape of these segments. And then these shape changes bring about the movement which is known as the peristaltic movement. What is peristaltic movement? It is a movement produced by the rhythmic waves of muscle contraction passing from front to back. So just like when food passes through our esophagus, that passes with the help of the peristaltic movement. So in the similar way, the peristaltic movement that happens here is due to the muscle contraction from front to back helps in the movement. So this is a rhythmic contraction and relaxation. So rhythmic waves, production of rhythmic waves of muscle contraction helps in the movement of the organism in the forward direction due to the peristaltic movement. So the movement is produced by the rhythmic waves of muscle contraction from front to back, and this is known as the peristaltic movement. So this is how the crawling by peristalsis take place. So you can see that, as I mentioned, they have longitudinal muscles and the circular muscles. So this is the state when the longitudinal muscles are relaxed. So when they are relaxed, they are extended. When the muscles are, and in that state, circular muscles are contracted. While in this figure, you will see that the circular muscles are relaxed and longitudinal muscles are contracted. So suppose this is the head end, which is the anterior end, and these are the bristles, that is the setae. So how this is happening is, at the movement depicted, the movement which is being depicted here, body segments at the earthworm head end. So if we will focus on this end, which is the head end, we will see, and just in front of the rear end are short and thick. So you will see that this region is different and this region is different. So what is the difference taking place here is that longitudinal muscles are contracted and circular muscles are relaxed and are anchored to the ground by the bristles. So you can see that this is helping in the anchoring with the ground. So setae is helping in attachment of the organism with the ground. While if I talk about this other segment, this is thin. Right? We can see clearly this head end has become thick. This rear end has become thick. While the central body has become thin. So what is happening is, in this area, longitudinal muscles are contracted while the circular muscles are relaxed. The other segment, which is thin and elongated, that is in this area, what is happening is circular muscles are contracted and longitudinal muscles are in relaxed position. So basically what happened is that initially at the head end, what happened is longitudinal muscles. So this situation happened actually. Let me use the eraser first. So basically when the movement takes place, what happening is at the head end, longitudinal muscles are contracting and circular muscles are undergoing the relaxation, resulting in the thickening of the area. You can see in the figure also, right? This has led to the thickening or raising of the body part of that area, and these bristles come in contact with the land and helps in the attachment. So you can see that while in the middle portion, which is thin, what is happening is in that K area, longitudinal muscles are relaxed while the circular muscles are contracted. And it is away from the surface. You can see here, right? It is away from the surface. In the next moment, what happened is that the head now moved forward because circular muscles in the head segments have contracted. Now, opposite of what was happening in the step 1 will happen, and circular muscles in the head segments contract, resulting in the upward movement of the head and forward movement of the head. So it will leave the ground. You can see here the bristles have leave the ground, have raised above the ground, and the forward movement has taken place. Segments behind the head at the now, if this happens, it might lead to the slipping. So what happened is that simultaneously the segment which is behind the head now undergo circular muscle relaxation and longitudinal muscle contraction, therefore resulting in the thick segment formation that anchored to the land, thus preventing the worm from slipping backward. Again, the opposite of the what was taking in this step 2 will happen. Again, the head segments are thick and anchored in the new position. The rear segments have released their hold on the ground and have been pulled forward. So in that way, this happens. So once the head comes in contact to the ground, then in the next moment, what will happen is that the opposite will happen. Head has moved upwards. The next body part has come in contact with the ground. So that is how it moves forward in the rhythmic wave-like pattern, which is known as the peristalsis. So the contraction of the longitudinal muscle thickens and shortens the earthworm, while the contraction of the circular muscles constricts and elongates it. Right? The next system is the circulatory system. So this circulatory system has been shown for the earthworm, and the earthworm, which is an annelid, has a closed circulatory system. The dorsal and ventral blood vessels are joined by 5 pairs of anterior heart. So you can see here, if I zoom this image, you can see that if this is the heart, they have 5 pairs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And the dorsal blood vessel, which is here, is then the dorsal and ventral blood vessels move into this heart, which is 5 chamber, not 5 chamber, but actually it is made up of 5 thick blood vessels, resulting in the heart-like structure that pumps the blood. And they have lateral vessels that supplies the blood to the other organs. So the dorsal and ventral blood vessels are joined by 5 pairs of anterior heart that pumps the blood. In the right, you can see the lateral blood vessels. So these are the lateral blood, lateral blood vessels that distribute the blood to the rest of the worm. So there are 3 types of blood vessels present: dorsal, ventral, and lateral. So these blood vessels are present, and they have heart, which is 5 pairs of anterior. That is 5 pairs of anterior heart. Right? So this is the components of the circulatory system in the annelids, and they have closed circulatory system. Right? The next is the respiratory system. So the terrestrial annelids, like respiratory system, there is little bit differences in the terrestrial annelids like earthworms and the other annelids that are present in the aquatic region. So the gaseous exchanges takes place through different means. So in the earthworm, you know that the terrestrial annelids like earthworms keep their body surface moist. So in earthworms, you will find is that what you will see is that their surface is really moist. If you might have seen earthworms, you might have seen that they are really moist due to the secretion of the component which is called as the mucus. So this mucus helps in keeping them moist, preventing their body from getting dry, and releasing fluids from the excretory pores. So these things help in keeping the surface of the terrestrial annelids moist. Further, the worm is behaviorally adapted to remain in the damp soil during the day when the air is driest. So that is why it keeps its surface moist. And in earthworm, if you will see, So if in the earthworm, if you will see in details, what you will find is that their blood vessels are really in close contact with the outer surface. Their blood vessels are very close to the outer surface. This is the dorsal blood vessel which we discussed. This is the ventral blood vessel which we discussed, right? So these blood vessels are very near to the outer surface, and since they have a very thin outer surface, outer membrane, easily gas exchange can take place through these. That is, they can easily take up the oxygen and release the carbon dioxide. So the gaseous exchange takes place through the body surface. In addition to a tubular shape, aquatic polychaete worms have extensions of the. Now, what happens in aquatic polychaetes? So, as I mentioned, that polychaetes have a very special structure, which is the parapodia. So, this parapodia are vascularized and they are used for the gaseous exchange. So, basically, these polychaete worms have extensions of the body walls, which are called as the parapodia, and these parapodia are used for the gaseous exchange. While the normal terrestrial annelids, the exchange takes place through the normal body surface. Next is the digestive tract. So, as I mentioned, that they have the complete digestive tract, meaning the tract has a mouth and an anus. So this is the complete digestive tract of an earthworm, which has been shown, starting from the mouth to the anus. They have pharynx, they have esophagus, they have crop, they have gizzard, and then they have intestine, and finally the food passes out through the anus. So earthworms mainly feed, we know that it remains in the soil, and therefore it remains in the soil, and therefore it mainly feeds on the decayed organic matter which is present in the soil. So it is also known as the farmer friend, right? Because it helps in maintaining the nutrient content of the soil by producing the humus. So it feeds on the decayed organic matter which is present in the soil. The muscular pharynx draws in food with the sucking action. So food from the mouth passes to the pharynx. So this muscular pharynx, through the sucking action, draws in the food. Food then enters the crop, which is a storage area with thin, expansive walls. So this crop is the storage area where the food is stored until it is not required. From there, the food goes to the gizzard, which is a thick muscular wall, which is made up of thick. So the crop region is made up of thin walls, while the gizzard region has thick muscular walls. And why thick muscular walls are required? So these thick muscular walls helps in the grinding of the food. So that is, they help in crushing the food and helps in the grinding of the food. Digestion is extracellular within an intestine, and the surface area of the digestive tract. So basically what you will see is that in their intestine, they have a very specialized structure, which is the typhlosole. So this typhlosole is helping in increasing the surface area for the absorption of nutrient molecules. So this is helping in increasing the surface area for absorption, and this is accomplished by an intestinal fold, which is called as the typhlosole. So this is important. And they have specialized structures which are typhlosole in the intestine and in the intestinal folds, and this typhlosole is helping in increasing the surface area for the absorption of nutrient molecules. So this typhlosole is present in the intestine of the annelids. So this is about the digestive system of the earthworm or the common annelids. So they have a complete digestive tract. That is, they have mouth and anus, and they, as I mentioned, they feed on, like, they have, the food passes from the mouth to the pharynx, and from there it passes to the crop, and when required it passes to the gizzard, where it undergoes grinding, and then the food is then absorbed in the intestine with the help of they do not have any stomach, so the food is absorbed in the intestine Then the grinded food is digested extracellularly within an intestine only, and from there the surface the food is being absorbed, the nutrients are absorbed, and they have a special structure in this intestine, which is the typhlosol. So this typhlosol helps in increasing the surface area of intestine for the absorption of nutrients. So in the first lecture, we learn about two terms, that is the protostomes and the deuterostomes. So annelids belong to the category of protostomes, right? The next is the excretory organ. We know that the excretory organ in the annelids is nephridia. So this has here the metanephridia of an earthworm has been shown. Singular is metanephridium. So each worm contains a pair of metanephridia. Each worm segment. So this is one segment, right? So this one segment consists of pair of nephridia. Within each segment, a pair of nephridia is present that collects the coelomic fluid from the adjacent anterior segment. So this will collect the coelomic fluid from this, and this will collect this. If this is the anterior side, and this is the posterior side, right? So the region highlighted here in the yellow illustrates the organization of one metanephridium of a pair, and the other one will be below this, behind it. So one has been shown here. This is the coelom which I was mentioning, the body cavity, and the fluid which is filled here is known as the coelomic fluid, which is being collected by the next segment. And this is the network of capillaries, which is shown here in the red color. They have collecting tubules, then they have internal openings, they have a bladder, and they have external openings. So you can see here they have external openings through which the waste is released, and they have internal openings. So how does this work? Actually, so metanephridia collect fluid directly from the coelom. So it collects the coelomic fluid. Now each worm segment has a pair of metanephridia which are immersed in the coelomic fluid and enveloped by the capillary network. So we see here that the fluid which is filled here is the coelomic fluid, right? So basically, the metanephridia are present in the coelomic fluid, right? So they are present in the coelomic fluid and they are immersed in the capillary network. They are enveloped by a capillary network. A ciliated funnel surrounds the internal opening. So you can see here that this is the ciliated funnel that surrounds the internal opening. So this is the internal opening where the anterior is open to the next segment. And as the cilia beats, fluid is drawn into a collecting tubule, which includes a storage bladder that opens the outside. So when the cilia beats, the fluid gets collected into the bladder that opens outside through the external opening. So as this metanephridia have both excretory and osmoregulatory functions. As urine moves along the tubule, the transport epithelium bordering the lumen reabsorbs most solutes and return them to the blood in the capillaries. So when the urine is moving along the tubule, they have a epithelium lining is being bordered with the lumen. The epithelium lining, the transport epithelium bordering the lumen. So this epithelium lining reabsorbs most of the solutes, thus preventing the loss of solutes from the body, and it returns them to the blood in the capillaries. Nitrogenous waste remains in the tubule and are excreted to the outside. The nitrogenous waste can be ammonia if the organism is aquatic, or it can be urea if the organism is present on the land. So for example, earthworm which lives on the land, the excretory material is urea, while for the polychaetes which are mostly marine, the excretory material is ammonia. So we know that ammonia is more toxic, and therefore it requires dilution. So most of the aquatic animals may release ammonia, but for the ones that are living on the land, the ammonia may be toxic, and therefore their excretory material is less toxic compared to ammonia, which is the urea. So this point might help you in remembering that ammonia is the excretory material in most of the aquatic forms, while urea in the animals that are present on the land. Next is the nervous system. So annelids are complex animals with true nervous system. And they have an invertebrate type of nervous system where the nerve cord is present ventrally. So they have a ventral nerve cord. So cephalization is present, that is the presence of brain in the head is present. There is a brain and a ventral nerve cord having a ganglion in each segment. So you can see that they have a ventral nerve cord with ganglia. Ganglia are the actually turfs of the nerve. So they have ventral nerve cord with ganglia in each segment, and these nerves are present all over the body. The brain, which normally receives sensory information, controls the activity of ganglia and assorted nerves so that the muscle activity of the entire animal is coordinated. So the brain acts as a sensory organ. It receives all the sensations that are in the surrounding, and accordingly it instructs the ventral, accordingly it regulates the activity of the ganglia and the assorted nerves so that the entire muscle activity of the animal can be coordinated. The presence of brain and other ganglia in the body of all these animals, like in annelids, indicate an increase in number of neurons among more complex invertebrates. So, as we are moving from poriferans to annelids, we are moving towards the more complex invertebrates. So, the presence of brain and other ganglia in the body of these animals suggests that they have little more complex nervous system as compared to the previous invertebrates, where mostly the nerve nets are present. So in coelentrates and in cnidarians, we have nerve nets that are present, not much very well developed brain. So therefore, their nervous system, we are seeing the progression of the nervous system also in the complex invertebrates. The next is reproduction. So reproduction, if we talk about the earthworms are hermaphrodite. So what we know about hermaphrodite is that both male and female system are present in the same individuals. The male organs are the testes, the seminal vesicle, and the sperm ducts. So male reproductive organ consists of testes, seminal vesicle, and sperm ducts. While female organs consist of ovaries, oviducts, and seminal receptacles. They have seminal vesicle, they have seminal receptacles. Right? During mating, what happens is, this has been shown in this figure. This is earthworm number 1. This is earthworm number 2. So during mating, these two earthworms comes in close contact with each other, facing opposite. So the anterior end of one faces the posterior end of the other, while the posterior end of the same faces the anterior end of the other earthworm. So anterior ends are on the opposite side. The fused mid-body segment, which is the clitellum. So the clitellum is the portion from where the fusion happens. So the fused mid-body segment, which is the clitellum, it secretes the mucus, protecting the sperm from drying out as they pass between the worms. So the worm will pass the sperm to the other worm. So this clitellum secretes the mucus during this process, preventing the drying of the sperm. And when this worm separate, the clitellum of each produces a slime tube, which is moved along the anterior end by muscular contraction. And therefore, it helps in passing as it passes, eggs and the sperms received earlier are deposited and fertilization occurs. So the slime tube then forms a cocoon to protect the worms as they develop. So this is happening, how the reproduction is taking place in the earthworm. So basically, firstly, the fusion happens. The area, the fused body segment, which is called as the clitellum, it secretes the mucus that prevents the sperm when it passes from one worm to the another worm. And after the worm separate, the clitellum of each worm, it produces a slime tube that moves along over the anterior end. So it will move along the anterior end by muscular contractions. As it passes, eggs and sperm received earlier are deposited here, and during this, the fertilization happens when eggs come in contact with the sperm. The slime tube then forms a cocoon, which is the covering on the worm. So the young worms are the worms which are now formed are covered from in the cocoon. There is no larval stage in the earthworm. This is important that in oligochaetes, larval stage is not there, while you will see that in polychaetes, the larval stage is present there. So they are dioecious. That is, they have both male and female organ present in the same organism, and they are hermaphrodites. However, the cross-fertilization is taking place. Next is, so this was mostly about the whatever we discussed in details like reproductive system, nervous system, circulatory system is more or less similar in all the classes. However, we will discuss a little about the polychaetes and leeches also, that what are the basic characteristics of these classes. So approximately 2/3 of the annelids are marine polychaetes. So of all the annelids, 2/3 of the annelids are the polychaetes. In polychaetes, the setae are in bundles on peripodia. So para means beside, and podia word is always used for the foot. So they have foot-like structures. So which are pedal-like appendages found on most segments. So parapodia is a characteristic of polychaetes, which is a foot-like pedal-like appendage which is found on most of the segments. And these are used not only in swimming but also as respiratory organs, as I mentioned, where the expanded surface area allows for the exchange of gases. So this I have already explained that in polychaetes, the parapodia helps in the exchange of gases. Some polychaetes are free swimming, but most live in crevices or burrow into the ocean bottom. Clamworms, for example, Nereis, are predators. So most of the polychaetes are predators as well. So for example, Nereis, they prey on crustaceans and other small animals which are captured by a pair of strong chitinous jaws that extend with the part of pharynx when the animal is feeding. Associated with its way of life, Nereis is cephalized. That is, just like other annelids, it has a brain having a head region with eyes and other sense organs. So they have a cephalization present. So most of the characteristics are same. It is a difference in the environment in which they are living that is leading to some of the different adaptations in polychaetes. Other marine polychaetes are sedentary. That is, they are sessile tube worms with radioles. So what are radioles? Radioles are the ciliated mouth appendages which are used to gather the food. For example, Christmas tree worms, fan worms, and feather duster worms all have radioles. So in feather duster worms, the beautiful radioles cause the animal to look like an old-fashioned feather duster, and hence the name. Polychaetes have breeding season, and only during these times do the worms have sex organs that are developed. In Nereis, many worms simultaneously shed. So how does fertilization takes place? So fertilization here is external, and how does it happen? So many worms simultaneously shed a portion of their bodies that contain either the egg or the sperm. So this shedded portion might either contain egg or may either contain sperm, and these float to the surface where fertilization takes place when the eggs come in contact with the sperm. Then the zygote rapidly develops into the trochophore larva. So they have a larval stage, which is the trochophore larva. While in the earthworms, we see that they do not have any larval stage. The polychaetes, for example, Nereis, have larval stage, and their larva is known as the trochophore larva. So these are the examples. First is Nereis succinia, which is the clamworm. So they are predaceous polychaetes. So as I mentioned, that they have eyes, they have well-developed eyes, they have sensory projections, their pharynx is extended, thereby helping it. They have a jaw, and their pharynx are extended, that helps in catching the prey. So basically, this helps in catching the prey. And they have parapodia, as I mentioned, that they have parapodia, which is the appendages that are being present. The next example here is the Christmas tree worm. So as I told that they have radioles. So radioles are the ciliated appendages and that helps in the feeding. So they are sessile feeders. They are not movable. They are fixed and they are sedentary. So they are sessile feeders whose radioles, that is the ciliated mouth appendages, are being shown that helps in catching the food and thereby catching the helping in catching the prey. The next class is the leeches. So leeches are the annelids that normally live in the freshwater habitats. They range in size from less than 2 centimeter to the medicinal leech, which can be 20 centimeter long. They exhibit various patterns and colors, but most of them are brown or olive green. The body of the leech is flattened dorsoventrally. They have the same body plan as other annelids, but they have no seta. So this is important, that they do not have any seta, and each body ring has several transverse grooves. So they do not have seta. So there are 4 different classes, then the oligochaetes and polychaetes. While some of them are free living, most of the leeches are fluid feeders that attach themselves to open wounds, and they are parasitic there. So most of the leeches get attached to the wound and they sucks the fluid from the host. So therefore, since they have to suck the fluid, they have modifications, and among their modifications are 2 suckers, a small oral sucker, one around the mouth, and a posterior one. So they have an anterior sucker and they have a posterior sucker, one which is present around the mouth and one on the posterior end. Some blood suckers, for example, the medicinal leech, can cut through the tissue, as we can see here. It cuts through the tissue. You can see this is the leech that cuts through the tissue and moves out. So it can cut through the tissue. Leeches can keep the blood flowing using the hirudin. So this is very important. Leeches are used for the extraction of hirudin. Hirudin is what? It is a powerful anticoagulant. So they have a very powerful anticoagulant in their saliva, which is the hirudin. Since they have to suck the blood, since they have to suck the fluid, therefore they have to release the anticoagulant that prevents the clotting of the blood. So this hirudin is used as an anticoagulant even in the medical sciences. So this is really important. That hirudin, which is obtained from the leech, belongs to the phylum. So leeches belong to the phylum Annelids. This is also one of the importance of the phylum organisms of phylum Annelids. So medical leeches, as the name suggests, it has been used for centuries in bloodletting and other procedures. Today they are also used in reconstructive surgery for severe digits, like if there are any digits, that is the fingers or thumbs that are infected, or in plastic surgery, they are used for that, where they help in keeping the blood in the flowing state by releasing the anticoagulant also. So this was all about the phylum organisms of phylum Annelids. So we studied about phylum Annelid, that they have closed circulatory system, they have well-developed nervous system, their excretory system consists of nephridia, they have well-developed digestive system also, which is the complete digestive tract. They are protostomes, where mouth developed first, then the anus. They are triploblastic animals. They are true coelomates, that is, they have a body cavity. Then we see the classification on the basis of setae. So if there are few setae which are present, they are oligochaetes. If there are many setae, they are polychaetes. And if there are no setae, then they belong to leeches. Then they are leeches, or they belongs to the category of hirudinae. So these are examples also. We see Hirudomedicanelis, which is a medical leech, which is used in various medical applications from centuries. Then we studied Nereis, which is the worm, which is a polychaete and which is parasitic also. Then in the oligochaetes, we learn about the example of earthworm. So this was all about the phylum Annelid. In the next class, we will learn about the phylum Arthropods. With this, I would like to end today's session. Thank you for attending.